Move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. You can see your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. But what's that unusual change in your brain activity when you're asleep? It started earlier in the month. You send a text message to your doctor with a mental swipe of your cursor. Could you take a quick look at my brain data? Anything to worry about? Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present. You breathe a sigh of relief when
That's
the
why
email
women
she
shouldn't
sends
be
you
in the
later that day
workplace.
congratulates you on your brain metrics from the past quarter, which have earned you another performance bonus. You head home jamming to the music, with your work-issued brain-sensing earbuds still in. When you arrive at work the next day, a somber cloud has fallen over the office. Along with emails, text messages, and GPS location
You got trumped.
data, the government has subpoenaed employees' brainwave data from the past year. They have compelling evidence that one of your coworkers has committed massive wire fraud. Now, they're looking for his co-conspirators. You discover they are looking for synchronized brain activity between your coworker and the people he has been working with. While you know you're innocent of any crime, you've been secretly working with him on a new startup venture. Shaking, you remove your earbuds.
New World Order. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of News from the Pew, where our jokes are so funny, HR always wants to hear them. I am your host, Rick Barrett, and I am joined, as always, by Stephen Cunningham of Census Fidelium and Spiritus TV, because he is the godfather of YouTube, Catholic YouTube content. And we are joined as very frequently, and we are always happy to have Jonathan Arrington joining us. Gentlemen, it is good to have you on as always. Enoch is like planting in one of his places, and you're on mute, buddy, so you can take your.
Can I start off by saying I'm giving up avoiding Babylon for Lent? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can absolutely. That is a noble sacrifice indeed, and I think you will be very, very well. And by the way, I hope you had a good Ash Wednesday, and now we are into it, folks. We are into Lent, so we'll talk about that as we go on throughout News from the Pew. But let's get to the newsy portion of News from the Pew, and it deals with our 2020 candidates. First one, let's get the one out of the way that we all want to talk about, and that's good old Trump. He got on Trump Force One, and he flew up to Palestine, East Palestine, Ohio, and it was about as Trump as you could get when he got there.
If you were in office right now, what would you have done to help the people of East Palestine?
FEMA would have been here a long time ago.
What do you think they waited, Mr. Trump? Do you think it had to do with
the fact that... They waited for me. When I came, everybody came.
Thank you, sir.
When I came, everybody decided to come, right? You know that. Nice to see you. Have a good time. You look so great up there. Huh? Have fun, everybody.
Thank you, Mr.
A lot of progress being made. Mayor's doing a great...
So let's... People, it's this, that, and the other thing. Trump hates the poor. They always said Trump hates the poor. He hates the people that votes for him, this, that. John, even if the guy is one of the worst people on the planet, which he may be, people say, Ann Coulter was on with Tim Cass, and she just said that he hates everybody and he talks blah, blah, blah. I don't care. The guy got on the plane. He took water and all these supplies. He brought them to the people. There's got to be at least some way to look at that in a charitable light. There's got to be a little bit of good in the man. I'm not calling him a saint by any means. I know this, that, and the other thing. He's a terrible guy. But the fact that he gives hope to those people when they need it and acknowledgement of their existence, that's got to be something that's got to count. You got to give the guy at least a little bit of credit there.
You're on mute.
You can get off mute, bud.
That.
There you go.
I think Tucker Carlson put it pretty well, as he often does, in that, I mean, Trump, it really is a master in crowds. It's like he lights up. It's almost as if he becomes a different person when he's in front of the cameras. And I mean, that's kind of how his life has gone really since the time he became popular in the 80s and on throughout today. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that he did that either, because, I mean, there was such a gap of federal level politicians going out there that somebody had to be the first, I guess, or had to go out there and actually say, hey, I'm here, because I don't know, who knows the musings in the dark web about whether or not a lot of federal officials had made it out there in the dark of the night or in hazmat suits. Could be, but someone had to go out there publicly and kind of loudly proclaim, here I am. You know, if you want to ask some questions, feel free to. Unlike, you know, Buttigieg's little, don't talk to me. All of my public statements are out there. You can refer to them. So, yeah, I mean, it's not surprising in a certain way. And it's, I mean, no matter what the intentions were of Trump, no matter, ulterior or otherwise, it was a beautiful sign. And you can bet, since I guess that area voted, from last I heard, is around 70% or so for him in the last election.
That is deep Trump area right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least they were grateful. That's probably, to a lot of the people there, I'm not mocking when I say this, but it's like having a true advent of sorts, you know, a kind of epiphany, even just on the human scale. So it brought him some encouragement. I mean, great. Was it at least partially an attraction of attention for future plans? I mean, probably, that would be my guess, but hey, some good came of it. And it's kind of not for us to judge intentions unless there's a clear declaration somewhere that I maybe I don't know, because I haven't been as plugged in the last week as many. So if there's a clear indication somewhere else of his ulterior motives, then, you know, let's get that out there. Let's find out about it and judge accordingly, because that would be pretty rotten to play on people's emotions that way and just use them. But as I think the general public sees it as of right now, it seems like a really nice, kind thing to do.
I think at this point, they wouldn't mind being played for whatever the word is, as you just quote stated well, as long as somebody's paying attention to them. You know, at this point, they went how long without being acknowledged? Meanwhile, Pete, you mentioned the Buttigieg, so we might as well get that video of him getting in there before all the plebs woke up early this morning, so he could get in, take his pictures with his goofy glasses, and then leave. So let's take a look at that.
You say you're too little, too late.
I say that we're with residents right now.
Mr. Secretary,
we're going to be here.
Yeah, surrounded by security, bud.
As we were.
I was going to mention that. Notice when Trump was surrounded by, and check out Peter.
I mean, obviously Trump had Secret Service, yes, but not like he didn't have extra cops with him.
Take you 3 weeks then.
Can I finish my answer to the first?
Well, we're saying it's too little, too late, because it took you 3 weeks to get here, and then you used the excuse that it was, there's 1,000 train derailments in the USA every single year. Is that okay to you as the Department
I can't tell what the question is, but I'm on my way to answer a lot.
The question is, do you think that you've done a good job as the Secretary of the Department of Transportation?
Yes, I'm proud of what FRA and PHMSA have done here from day one, from the first minutes, or at least the first hours of this response. What I'm really proud of is the community that I saw here. You've got federal agencies, you've got local first responders, you got states, but most of all, you got a community that's been through a lot, that I think is pretty frustrated with people trying to take political advantage of this situation. And my focus is going to be to make sure that our freight rail system gets safer. And anybody who wants to take political advantage of this, I'm calling them to the table to find out whether they are for
How are
or
you going
against.
to fix that, though?
Well, I would start by referring you to the whole plan that we put out the other day, and I'll be speaking more about this with
very quickly?
You can find it all online. Yeah, sure. Work with Congress to raise the fines, the caps on fines. Our own work on things like focused inspections and the 2-person crew rule, and another thing that railroad companies don't have to wait on us to require them to do, which is getting better information to local communities.
Mr. Secretary, would you still be here
I want to
if
get to
President
this,
Trump wasn't here yesterday?
Yeah, the timing of my visit is based on trying to be here with the community, but also trying to not be in the way of NTSB. Maybe I got that timing right, maybe not. But the most important thing for me right now is that doesn't wind up allowing people to change the subject and block needed rail regulation. Again, I'm on my way to the media availability, but appreciate you.
Can you ask Biden? Okay, why did it take you an entire 2.5 weeks to actually get here to respond to East Palestine? Will you apologize to the residents of this city for the slow response? To the government's slow response, do you have any apology?
I'm a press person, I can help you.
Sure. So can we ask why it took him almost 3 weeks to get here?
She unleashed the Karen.
I want to do this on camera.
What was his personal time off while there was a tragedy happening here?
And can we also ask too why he waited until President Donald Trump came here to actually make an appearance? This is a very important question that people across America would like to know.
I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I do not want to be on camera.
Well,
don't care.
Please put your cameras away.
I'm sorry, we're on a public area, so we are allowed as press.
You guys, I would like you guys to turn your cameras off.
You're not on my camera.
Well, I'm on a camera. I would like your cameras to be off, and then I'm happy to talk to you guys.
Well, if you're the press secretary of the Department of Transportation, don't you think you should be able to ask questions from the American public that you serve?
Absolutely. I would like to do it without the camera on.
Can I ask why?
I think that is a little bit
aggressive. Already on you,
That's why.
Why is it aggressive? I'm on behalf of the American people, I'm just asking why he has not been here until Donald Trump came.
She's asked several times for them to turn the cameras off, and they will not do it.
You are white knighting, buddy.
Able to walk away. Would you like to go inside? I do not.
Oh, here comes the lady cop.
Can you ask what the secretary is going to do with the picture of Jenny Kerr? He took her the other day when she was asking a question on Washington, D.C.
I'm happy to answer your questions. I would like you guys to not have your cameras on.
I had my camera open a minute ago. If I turn it off,
you all have your cameras on. I can see them. You guys, I'm happy to have this conversation.
All right, y'all. So we are with the press secretary for Pete Buttigieg, and right now we are being told that we are not supposed to be filming. Again, we are here on behalf of the American public because we would like to have the conversation, and we would like to ask the question as to why, again, it took almost 3 weeks for Pete Buttigieg to be here on the ground. He waited until Donald Trump came here to actually be here and speak to residents. The people here have been quite tight-knit about when we can ask questions. And again, we're here on behalf of the American public.
Love it. Love it. And I mean, Steve, Pete Buttigieg, he's such a condescending little jerk. The way and he is built. If you had if you were to build a politician, he would be what you would build in a factory. And it's so not genuine. You could tell between Trump and him, there's just such a that's why people loved him in 2016, because there was such a genuine difference in between them. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're looking at just him personally. The only reason they love him is because he's woke. He checkbox. He's gay, former military. He learned how he learned. What is it? He learned how to speak. Was it whatever the Holland speak? He learned to speak a foreign language just so he could read a book, is what they say. It's kind of like the George Washington Apple myth. I don't know if he really did that or not, but he learned another language that most people. It wasn't like Spanish. I think that's the most popular language out there. It wasn't Russian. It wasn't, Latin. He was something like that. It wasn't Slavic. I can't remember what it was. Just to read a book. Okay. Who cares? That gets you this job. He's banking on the wokeism. I'm gay. Hear me roar. Vote for me, which will probably be the thing for next election year. Everybody, even Mr. Trump, he's a fan of the LGBT movement. They all are. They have to be. If they're going to get that far, you're going to toe the line, say the right things, and have all the right people behind. Now, it's, as one priest said, sodomy is now a mainstream thing. And it's that one line from, was it St. Anthony? That said that one day you're going to look at people are going to look at you as mad for not being that way. Why are you like that? Why are you not digging into our ways? And they're going to look at you as crazy. And that's us. We're the crazy ones. But on defense on this, here's a clip from Fox.
The Transportation Secretary, Politico, pointing out that Secretary Buttigieg will visit their Ohio crash tomorrow. Quote, he's also expected to meet with DOT officials who arrived on the ground within hours of the derailment. They point out it's exceedingly rare for a Transportation Secretary to visit the site of a train derailment, especially one that resulted in no fatalities. And the reason they're pointing that out, it's fair, that's accurate. And there were train derailments in the Trump administration that actually had fatalities that didn't have a visit by Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao.
And because some people, we are putting this as my team versus their team, red versus blue, the Trump thing. I mean, I can't get in his mind, but I mean, you get there, there is this political element on there. We're politicizing the event. Biden bad, this guy bad, you know, whatever it is. I mean, Joe Behar is out there saying that they deserved it because they voted for Trump. I mean, we are politicizing this just because of, hey, look how bad Biden. We don't need a train thing to show how bad Biden. They're all. It's one guy said who's before he lost his mind. He had a great line. Politicians are like diapers; they should be changed for the same reasons. We're politicizing this to the point of what's really going on. What is the truth? I mean, this is a weird event that happened.
They have a plane crash in Little Rock, Arkansas, just minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
We learned the people on board were actually headed here to Northeast Ohio to help clean up the Oakwood Village explosion from Monday. All 5 people on board worked for an environmental consulting firm.
The plane took off from the Clinton National Airport around noon and was headed for John Glenn Columbus International Airport. Right now, we are digging into this story. We'll have much more on air and online as soon as we learn it.
I mean, remember when Mr. Trump said FEMA would be here already? Well, raise your hand if you're like that idea. Like, I can't wait for FEMA to come. You heard Katrina? Yeah, I didn't work too well. If the joke was, if you heard FEMA saying come here, you go the other way.
Yay! They brought the trailers.
Yeah. The FEMA camps. You see the you know, that's the same thing as the Hunger Games map. I mean, you don't want FEMA. You shouldn't want FEMA. You shouldn't want anything to do with FEMA. And in this, it's kind of weird. You know, after last week's show, there was more looking into this stuff. I mean, Last Mega Vagabond has been great on this, having a lot of doing a cover-up thing and all kinds of links with the hydrochloric acid. There's weird rain falling in the Northeast and Yankeeville, more for to say. People are seeing it, different stuff. There's snow on the ground that's melting in Canada. You got the pool of, you know, the different, looks like oil. I mean, in a sense, just like the JD Vance video, how do we know that they didn't put soap in them? Because you can do that with soap. Now, I get it. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. You can do that you can make those things with other products. So we don't 100% know. Plus, when I mentioned that weird stuff, I'm going, you remember those videos when they're interviewing people about you got the you know, your skin's coming weird. You get the coughs. They're saying, oh yeah, my throat's hurting. This. I just raising my hand. I'm going, you're standing at ground zero complaining that if you're outside too long or you got these symptoms of sore throat, your skin's peeling, things like that. Why are you outside standing at ground zero? Why are you outside at all? Why are you doing this? And, you know, the movie thing, I had a buddy of mine look up, he texts me up, he goes, heck, some of these guys are acting, they got the IMB, websites and all this because they were extras in the movies. And where's all these other people that are talking about these things that are happening to them? Why is it just these ones? It's, you know what I mean? I don't trust the media for anything. And so, yes, that could be happening. Probably is happening, but I want more info on that to be like, all right, this is 100%. This is what's going on. They're all about to die. They all got cancer because, I mean, yeah, we talked about their poison in the sky. Well, every day they put chemtrails out. Where's the outrage on that? That's poison in the sky. They've been doing this for a long time, from wars to biohazards then to now. So where all of a sudden is it, you know, this spot? Why is it now that we're like, oh, these guys bad. This is doing this. It's call me crazy. I got this crazy tinfoil hat over there, but it's just something's not adding up. I mean, there's another link. Jonathan, did you send me this? The railroaded one. I thought this was a cool link.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, explain it a little bit more for those that I was going to jump on, but you sent it to me. Go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, well, I mean, it kind of provides, I think, some needed, I guess, that the broader scope of things like this but not just for this particular train wreck. Other potential spills and things like that, hazards. So yeah, I think you're right. An article like that, and a lot of the other things you can find on the alternative media, not the MSN, about the way to consider this from taking a few steps back and not being so focused on the kind of the here and now. But I think maybe one thing that would help our approach is to say, okay, there's kind of two aspects. There's is this an attention grabber that's trying to take our attention away from something else? And that could be, and I think part of that gets into the claim, at least from Buttigieg, there are 1,000 train wrecks a year, and there were train wrecks under Trump. True. Almost none of them have toxic chemicals, at least supposedly. Like somehow it gets out, this had it on board. So there's that whole vision of it. So what's on there is if they're telling us a lie about this, if they're really wanting us to believe that the train folks and FEMA as well, and this time are so incompetent they let this happen, then I mean it seems like we're in deeper trouble than we could have ever imagined. So it's like that's one question. The other thing is kind of like if the general tenor of what we know is true, what's the right approach? I mean, if there's not some huge lie going on about what was contained there, and kind of if it was actually maybe caused by someone else. I mean, you see what I mean? Like there's distinct questions about what's going on there, but we do need to know kind of like what would normally happen if something like this was spilled. Has this ever been talked about before? What sort of chemicals are even trains normally carrying? And so that's like something that those that line of Substacks there gets into, asking these deeper questions, like, let's see it. Let's see it. If you're making these claims, let's show it, especially because everybody in the country, or at least everybody, let's say within that cloud range of about 300 miles or so, their ears are perking up. So they're not listening to something else someone's saying if they hear that hazardous chemicals were spilled, So, I mean, there's something to that.
Yeah, this goes back to 2012 when a train wreck happened. And as I highlighted, 82 freight cars were on it, 55 carrying hazard materials, 15 of which were vinyl chloride. You remember that? You remember that story back in 2012, ladies and gents? 3 of the cars loaded with it ended up beneath the bridge, and one of those experienced a full rupture, releasing 20,000 gallons of the toxic gas directly into the air. Now, you've heard about this for a week. So, I mean, this is back in 2012. I don't live there, but I mean, this isn't the first time it's happened before, apparently, right? And here's the 52. This is the one last couple weeks ago, earlier February. 52 car, 20 cars having hazardous material on board. 5 were containing vinyl chloride. What was it? What did we say on this one was 15 had vinyl chloride in that one in 2012. And here's the list of everything on here. 2 hoppers of solid polyethylene were consumed in initial fire shortly after derailment. Trash bag, major component in trash bags and plastic buckets. Because they mentioned that vinyl chloride is something that's in PVC pipes, and what's in everybody's home is PVC pipes. So if it's that dangerous, why is it directly hitting your water every moment of the day, in a sense, too? 4 hoppers of solid polyvinyl.
There's a little.
Do what?
Well, there is a slight kind of like chemical issue. Well,
John,
no,
go ahead.
It's in PVC pipes, but it's in there as a component that it basically think of it this way: the vinyl chloride's the VC part of it. The P's, once it's there, it becomes stable and it can't be leaking off into your water. So it's used to make PVC, but it's not going to leak off.
It's not completely made with.
Well, the fact is that the chemical, I mean, you guys said that we're dealing with chemicals every single day, regardless of spills or whatever the case may be. We've pointed out the fact that birth control, the hormones from birth control are in the water, and there's no way to filter that kind of stuff out.
Well, it's in the California water. There's reports about them sterilizing the people, basically.
Yeah,
making,
as Alex Jones famously said, making frogs gay. So that's all. That's all there that people have been dealing with. And so I do want to, while you guys are talking about this, We've seen the Florida thing. We talked about it last week. Then there was another one. Then there was a report about something happening in Tennessee. I'm going to throw it to John, then Steve. What do you guys make of the fact that, and I think John alluded to it early, last week, so I want to see if you have the same feeling now. The fact that every single day it seems like there's another industrial disaster that people are being told about. And Steve just pointed out in the last couple of minutes, we've always had issues have come up. Accidents and things have taken place. So why the focus starting in, well, since they dropped the ball in Ohio, they didn't talk about it for 2 weeks until they were like, oh, look, there's a black cloud in the sky. Now we have to talk about it. Now it's just been bam, 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 repeatedly. John, what do you feel about the overemphasis now? Like they're trying to play catch up or overcompensate for totally missing this before.
I mean, I think you got a point. I got to say, my mind's kind of pulled in two directions about this. So, I mean, luckily, I had a family member who works, let's just say, in this sort of industry, and he told me the night it happened, but at least within 24 hours, he said, this is going to be huge. Nobody has any clue of it right now, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but this is going to be huge. And he called it. I mean, I was thinking, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's spills all the time. Boy, he was right. So I'll know to listen to him when he's talking about his particular work area. But yeah, he nailed it. But so I got two thoughts. One is that the priest today at Mass was mentioning how for most people, that he just said he hears kind of in the confessional, for most people, knowledge of the news, the latest, is usually not helpful for them because there's nothing they can do to change the particular things they hear about. And even you could say to prepare otherwise, so for instance, things like this, it's just like listening to Catholic news about, what is happening in the Curia. Other than praying for them, what in the world are you going to be able to do about it? So that was kind of the priest general point this morning in the homily. But then, it got me to thinking, I should have stayed focused more on what he was saying, but think about it in the secular world. I mean, what could we do to make sure that things like this don't happen in the future? Unless you want to get into working with trains, I mean, I don't know, or working with hazardous material so that you're better informed about these things. I really don't know. And to me, that's kind of the biggest change. I know Trump was a supporter of the LGBT stuff, but at least compared to Biden, he was not one who supposedly hires according to that criteria. I think that's the point that Tucker Carlson's been making a lot. That
I will say he was the first guy to appoint Richard Grenell to the UN.
I mean, true.
I don't mean to
I
be
would
that
rather have
guy.
someone like that.
I completely apologize for being that guy. That's the one thing I know, so I had to get it in there. That's all,
Hey,
John.
get someone like that in the neutered UN, then get them out of this country. You know what I mean?
You know what? Good point. There you go. Continue, please.
Well, the only other thing that it got me thinking about is I could see why, because most people are so dialed into the news. Find me, more than 5% of Americans who don't check out the news. I mean, it really rules the land, and it has from the time of newspapers on. So the thing I'm trying to wrestle with, and you guys help me out if you like see it much more clairvoyantly than I do. Are they using, even on the kind of the alternative media, the news of the disasters that are happening like this, the attacks on, or at least destruction of power plants or power facilities, things where places where food is processed, etc. You know what I'm talking about. These sorts of things that are disastrous to the infrastructure in the U.S. Are they using that to stoke fear? Are they allowing these things to get out, even if they're not as grave as they seem to be? Or are they really that incompetent and they really do want to cover their steps, and someone else wants them to be so incompetent that, from all I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, but from all I can tell, things like this have taken a huge, have increased by a great percentage, maybe even more than simply percentages would make it clear, but have really increased a lot since Biden got in. So I don't know what's going on more deeply. Is someone else pulling the strings? Do they want to seem humiliated like it seems they are to the average Joe? Or is there more than meets the eye? I don't know. It's just a question I'm kind of wrestling with.
Yeah, that would be a heck of a thing to throw at the feet of somebody like Buttigieg. right? He's the first guy to get in there, and it all just goes to absolute crap, Steve. I mean, that's not really a great mark. But what do you, John just explained it very well. Is it just a typical distraction technique at this point to be like, oh, look at all this stuff going on because maybe the stuff in Ukraine's not going well, or the economy, or is this just a distraction technique that they're doing?
I mean, I keep thinking that. I mean, we're distracted by everything. I mean, how long did everyone go for the balloon? For weeks? I mean, weeks. Everyone,
we were waiting for you to shoot it down. That's why.
Shoot it down. Hashtag shoot it down. Shoot it down. And I made the joke last week about it. I stole it from someone else that talked about how funny it would be. It was from that article of Government of Fear, I think it was. And because he made the joke, how bad would it be if it comes out that we used a $450,000 rocket to shoot a $12 balloon down? And what happened? It comes out to say these people are coming out saying we lost our $12 balloon or $100 balloon. It was one of those that may have been shot down. I mean, there's a couple. Was it Paul Joseph Watson talked about this nerd group over here who put out these balloons down and fly around the world. It was one that looked exactly like the one that Biden comes out and goes, we shot that bad boy down.
You know, the Air Force couldn't wait to do it, man. They were absolutely, we joked about the meme last week where they were putting like balloons on the side of their planes.
I'm afraid to do the propaganda. I don't know if I want an AMRAAM missile coming at me. I mean, they're shooting those little ones down, but a distraction, like you said. I mean, here's an article or a thing that happened. America Under Attack. This is by Stu Peters. Who is Stu Peters? Stu's one of those guys that came out. Remember the waters? The Vatican is poisoning your water with.
Oh yeah.
What was it?
Snake venom.
Snake venom.
Remember that?
Never had an apology from them. Never said they never came out saying they were wrong. Never called it hyper sensationalism. The guy they talked to had the doctor was a dentist that hates Catholics, but everybody had Catholics all over. Check out the water thing. I could take that. I was like, guys, come on. There was so many bad things that Stu has put out, and sometimes he hits one, but that's the problem. You have like died suddenly. It's a meaningful thing, but when it gets sensationalized, it's almost like a not playing out. What is it? It kills the real story. Everyone's looking at that to check away, hey, how to debunk it. And while people are literally dying over, but everyone's looking at that drives you to that story, that documentary that came out. So this came out. Major response is underway after a compound of uranium is on fire at the Y-12 National Security Complex in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And this is Ryan Christian of The Last American Vagabond. He lives in Tennessee. I know he does. And he said, I'm keeping a close eye on this story, but haven't even tweeted about it because it seems to be mostly hype. But we'll continue to monitor. Again, hype. And he mentions all the time in his show, due diligence. We don't like doing due diligence. We find a link, we send it because we got to be the first one to do it. Who cares if it's right? Put it out there so we get clicks, likes, and shares. That clip out. He was the first to do it. Now I want to be the first right on it. I want to get the accuracy on this. Corbett does that right. He does it, something comes out, he stands back, lets it work it out like Rona. Waited a couple weeks to see what is going on first before we go out and say, hey, this is it. Now this should be just joking about things and making up things. Like this. How many people are sharing this? We'll go. 14,100 likes, 1.1 million views. In less than a day, just over a day and a couple hours, 6,700 retweets. We have no idea if this is legit or not. So, I mean, stuff like that can be a distraction. It takes away people anger, fear. That's what the news is made for. You got to have if it bleeds, it leads, so you can watch it. There's no good news because nobody would care. It's like, you want sexy, dramatic shows because the more controversial, more people will tune in. Hey, what are they going to say next? Catholics are just as bad as everyone else about that. What are we going? We want our ears tickled. We don't care if it's piety. We don't care if it's let's give us some of the fluff. And yeah, I would say it's all distraction. I mean, it's just too many weird things going on. I mean, and then on top of that, people don't know the history of the events, like what Jonathan sent about the 2012 article, or the guy in the Substack found the 2012 thing. How many people knew that? But immediately went thing. This is Ohio Chernobyl. No, we don't know if that's Ohio Chernobyl.
There was I don't mean to interrupt you. It's just that when I remember something, I have to say it before my ADD brain. the Love Canal up in New York. There was a company that was burying toxic waste back in the 20s, and then they sold it to the town. And the EPA essentially did the exact same thing that FEMA did to East Palestine. They were like, oh, yeah, well, good luck. And so this is not the first time. And Steve, I think what you were trying to say before I rudely cut you off is that we are such a victim to the now, to the immediate. And I think, as you said, social media is the thing that drives the cycle. Everybody's trying to be first and trying to make a name for themselves. So that's why we have this misinformation that we deal with. You're muted.
We get one guy that tweets it out and everybody follows. I mean, here's the story. Israeli forces massacred 10 East Palestine. No, that's regular Palestine. Just 100 others injured. You're not going to hear that, but we're going to hear about the train wreck and things like that. That story that I led off with, where they're talking about brain, getting in your mind and listening to your brain and all that. That's a legit thing that went on at the WEF a couple weeks ago, about a month ago now. And they went on for, 30 minutes and 27 seconds about how they can get into your mind and read your thoughts. And this is the lady I posted, we talked about before, Fitbits, all. Where's that story? Where is this story being talked about? Because down the road, I mean, even this, Bill introduced the ban Fed from using CBDC. I care more about, not saying that those things don't matter, but if it's one of those that we're just hyper sensationalizing and we have no other information other than what you're being fed on TV, because that's what the media is. They're telling you what to listen, what to believe, what to do.
Yeah, you got to be careful of the narrative that's
I don't want to say paid actors, but they were actors before in that same city. So it's not crazy to think that they're not, quote unquote, acting now. We have to have more information. But let's not just take it as the gospel that whatever you hear on Fox and all that. Because, again, when they're talking about how bad their throats are feeling and they're scared that their skin's going to, peeling and things like that. Jonathan, Rick, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not going. You know what? Let's go down to the town center and talk to everyone for, 45 minutes, 55 minutes. Let's do about 12 interviews because I want to breathe in all this stuff that I'm telling is terrible for us. I'm just, something about me, my spidey senses starts tingling.
Yeah, it is all a show. Whether it's a tragedy or not, everything is a stage at this point. And you could say it's a stage to distract from a disastrous. Do we have Biden go into the Ukraine, or do we not have any video on that? Yes, my muted friend.
I got Putin.
Okay. Well, actually, yeah, let's go with that because this happened, I believe, either yesterday morning or Tuesday morning. And it's pretty surprising what he has to say.
The fact that Russia cannot be defeated on the battlefield. So they're waging increasingly aggressive information attacks. First of all, targeting the young generations, lying on every step, distorting historical truth, attacking our culture, the Russian Orthodox Church, and other traditional religious institutions in our country. Now look at what they're doing with their own peoples. They're destroying the institution of family, their cultural and historical identity, and various perversions with regard to children up to pedophilia are accepted as the new norm, and priests are forced to recognize and officiate same-sex weddings. People can live however they want, and we in Russia have never intruded into people's private life, and we're not going to do that. But what we want to say is maybe they should take a look in the scripture, into the holy book of any great religion. It says that the family is a union between woman and man. And these holy texts are now being increasingly doubted in the West. the Anglican Church is now considering the idea of a gender-neutral God. What can we say?
Лгут постоянно, извращают исторические факты, не прекращают нападки на нашу культуру, на русскую православную церковь, другие традиционные религиозные организации нашей страны. Посмотрите, что они делают.
1 year after the bombs began to fall, Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine. Ukraine is still independent and free.
He is, you know, John, it's interesting that people can get after Putin as much as they want. Nobody here is a Putin apologist. We always have to say this. We always say, oh, I'm not a Putin apologist, blah, blah. Man knows how to work the propaganda war, at least. And you got people on this side of the pond going, all right, well, that dude's not into the mafia, the Lavender Mafia, and they seem to be firmly planted in the correct line. Of course, it's heretical, but still, it's pretty tough to watch him make a speech and then watch our Catholic leader make a speech.
Yeah, and because I mean, everything that he said about what Russia has not done is a lie. That's the worst part, I think, about Putin is that the whitewashing of history. If I could give him one defense, I'd say that it's natural, being the former KGB man that he is. So he can lie about what Russia has never done. Like, give me a break. I mean, it does not take a little bit of digging to find out how bad Russia has been on any front. I'm talking about invading good people, not invading. He was implying there that they're not going to walk into your bedroom while you're with another man. If you're a guy. Okay, that in itself is already a lie. From folks I know, that could have happened even in the most iniquitous of Russian cities, Moscow, or St. Petersburg. All right, but Russia was much worse on that in regard to walking in and confiscating the properties and everything and killing Catholic priests throughout the ages. And I mean, there have been some détentes, in history where things have been a little bit calmer. And they have continued to have a heavy legal hand on the Catholics that are still in the country. But, one thing he does, like Trump, that is, I think, brilliant as far as drumming up support on his side, is that he nails the other side really well. I mean, Trump knows how to nail other people well. Putin does as well. So he says the unsaid things that he knows about almost 50% of the population is thinking and knows to be true about the other side. And he just says it out loud as if it's normal. It's a brilliant delivery. It's really well done. And that's probably one of the reasons why he's, the current spokesman for the Russian state, if you'll, pardon that kind of roundabout way of describing him. I mean, he's good at what he does there. And the things that he said that referred to the bad things in America and the West, as he calls it, are true. Sadly, as far as the ruling elites in the West. I mean, in almost every country, that is true. The only thing I'd say is that the few Western nations that are not big LGBT pushers, and so I'm thinking specifically of places like Hungary and a few other, Poland as well, they know enough to be pretty nervous of potential American influence, and they handle it in a very, very deft way. I'd say Hungary and Poland do, and probably sometimes go too far in swallowing what comes from America. But they know enough to stay as far away from dependence on Russia as they possibly can, because they know who runs Russia right now. They may know there are a lot of great Russian people out there, but they know who the elites are in Russia, and those elites are just as ruthless, cold and ruthless, as the Western elites are. So, right, we're between two rocks in a very, very hard place there. That's the only way I can think of it.
Steve, your thoughts on Putin versus we didn't hear the clip, but in before Biden made his speech, he came out and there was a song, terrible. Ukraine is free, and they gave him freedom and all this other kind of nonsense. They're trying so hard to make this this polar opposite But they are making it a polar opposite, because you look at Putin and you look at Biden, and it's just one versus the other. It's no contest.
Yes, we just throw more. Well, hold on. Kind of compared to the last story, we just gave somebody a lot more money. I think we gave a lot to Ohio.
Is making Ukraine's resistance possible by supporting the home front, funding critical public services, and helping keep the government running. In the coming months, we expect to provide around $10 billion in additional economic support for Ukraine. Putin himself thought he would achieve a victory at minimal cost, in the words of CIA Director Bill Burns. 1 year later, Putin's war has been a strategic failure for the Kremlin.
She gives me so much confidence the way she speaks.
It's just the failure part. I mean, if he wanted to, they could have eliminated.
He could have turned Kiev into a parking lot.
Yeah, in a week. They've held back, and Dr. Rao has talked about that. Those guys, RT's talked, everyone on the other side. Yes, there's propaganda on both sides. I get that. Don't take their 100% as gospel. Don't take our side's propaganda 100% as gospel. So both, but those guys like, Dr. Rao and all those, they've been saying, and Scott Ritter, he's been really out there pushing. If he really wanted to do this, they would eliminate that thing overnight, and they haven't. And it's pretty much I think he said the Russian people are upset at him for not doing that. And you also got everyone thinks Mother Russia's doing this. Russia's introducing digital identity cards. We've talked about that before, as Edward Slavskov. They are part of the WEF, whether people believe it or not, because they did get eliminated or hand snap from Schwab and all those guys. Yeah, they're still pushing all the digital IDs. They got a big time. I had a friend of mine to go out there. He's the internet, the technology is way advanced out there. They already got the digital currency. They're coming in. They got all that stuff. So it's not like it's a haven for it. Yes, did he say some good stuff in his speech? Yeah, great. And he talked about nuking, maybe using nuclear arms. That was the big hashtag and trending thing. Well, all right, guys, we're Catholic. What's the Catholic response to that? Okay, bring it on. If you're in a state of grace, which you should be, then who cares if you get nuked? I mean, you should be in a state of grace, right? You should care about the eternal salvation more than you care about the eternal salvation of the United States of America. If you get nuked tonight, are you in a state of grace? Go to bed, go live every minute like that. I might get nuked. I better not sin. I might get nuked. I better not do that. I might be in the judgment seat in 30 seconds after a very hot day, global warming at a astronomical level. Better not do this. So as long as you stay in a state of grace, who cares what they do to us? I mean, you can't control, as Jonathan brought up, you can't control that anyways. I mean, you got insane people up in DC, you got insane people across the globe, you got insane people everywhere. And so what can you do about that? Not a thing except pray, hope, and don't worry, right? I mean,
Isn't that what the season's all about too? That
yes.
we're in?
I mean, 19% of Americans have confidence in Biden's handling Ukraine conflict. I think that's even too high. But yeah, I mean, what is your goal? What are we supposed to be doing? Ecclesiastes 7:40, know thy end and you'll never sin. Does the Ukrainian war have to do with that? Maybe you're getting a sermon that talks about the war all the time. Maybe it's a woke sermon. Read the Ukrainian saints then. How about that? If you want to wave the flag, like they had something about Biden saying, I can't go down the street without seeing a Ukrainian flag. I haven't seen one. I don't know what, maybe New York City, maybe New York City has it. Maybe Boston has it. I don't know if y'all in the chat have anything like that, but I haven't seen a Ukrainian flag ever live. But again, what are you supposed to be told? You're told what to think. You're told what to do. You turn on the boob tube and they're telling you here's your marching orders. Believe us. It's that one clip with all the news channels saying, and this is a trouble. This is dangerous to our democracy. You have 80 of them doing it. So take everything you hear from a grain of salt. Think about it. Read more saints than you are. Read more liturgical year stuff. Read more about how to get to heaven than you worry about what's going on. Again, we're just giving you the 411 on what's going on in the world at a little micro level. But then don't get excited about it. Don't worry. You shouldn't lose any sleep over this. Yeah. Is there problems going on? Am I worried about, the food going on? You got food shortages here. You got chickens dying here, killing here. You might not eat. God will provide. And you read the lives of the Desert Fathers. They said, that line from Scripture about this. You think God will take care of a sparrow? And he does. What do you think about you? You're made in their image and likeness. You don't have to go out. And I know this is going to contradict what I've said before about getting out and getting a year's supply of food. By the way, you know who runs the Patriots thing, Patriot Supply? The same guy that made the movie on the railroad thing. And
Does he?
Yeah. Buddy of mine checked that out. He goes, check this out. This is the Patriot Supply guy. So
that's why I don't buy from Patriot Supply.
Yeah, there's just some, like I said, weird things going on that I just can't trust the media 100%. I never do that anyways. But I mean, they've been lying to you for a couple of years. Do you think they're lying to you now? And I mean, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction on things and just worry about staying true to the faith.
Speaking of the faith, I'm going to throw this curveball at you guys. What do you guys think about the UAE's interfaith Abrahamic family house that just opened up? I knew it, John. I'm gonna throw it to you, bud. Let's light this sucker up. What do you think about it? You're on mute.
I have stayed so clear of. I followed my Septuagesimal pre-Lenten penance plans and have unfollowed ecclesiastical news so much that I don't even know what you're talking about. So let Steve go first, and I want to chime in afterward if I can learn something about it real quickly.
All right, Steve, you're in. Go.
I should have brought if I knew you were talking, I would have brought up Clown Planet from 6 months ago. I had a link about this in it where they were talking about putting this together because I just got done reading Plandemic by that English man. I can't think his name right now. And he talks, it was all about that earthism idea. And he mentions about the whole idea of one world religion. And I had to dig in and look it up. And there really was building this behemoth of us. What do you call it? You send me the link. I'll try to put it up on there. And
it's in the
is this link
chat.
here?
It's in the private chat.
Okay. And this is all. That's the whole thing is about, again, the new world religion or the one world religion idea. It's all the face. It's everything that you think of. There was a sermon years ago when Father talked about all these in a circle. I can't remember the name of the group. And he said, I don't know much about this, but keep an eye on it. This is pretty much the child of it. And it's open for everybody. So that should be right off the bat. They're not condemning anybody as being true or anything. So, and it's the Abraham religions of Jewish, Islam, and the Catholics all leading it up, but no one's claiming anything. But it's just one of those, and it's all about the environment too. It's just one of those weird things, the whole reset idea that's been coming down. I know someone in the chat mentioned about Russia doing it. Are they doing this on their own, or is a part of the plan, WEF? Oh, it's all part of the global plan. It's if you go back to the Blue Book, the Great Reset from 2021, it talks about stuff like that, and it's the blueprint for everything. They're going with the EV car. It's not like one country's going EV car because we want to do it. That's the way they're going. Everything they're going is going in this one plan, and we can pretend just like in the politics shows. Trump was saying that lock her up, lock her up, lock her up, and then what happens after he wins? Hey, at the breakfast, I want to say thank you to my good friends Bill and Hillary Clinton. I mean, they're good friends. When the cameras turn off, they're all good friends. WWF. There was John Cena did a speech at one of the ESPYs a decade ago, and he talked about how he was mocking the real sports and saying, you're like us. One year we have a bad guy, and he puts LeBron on the stage. A good guy goes bad guy goes good guy again, just like us. These guys, how do you think? He goes Cleveland won? Who would have saw that underdog win? And he puts a picture like him, just like I did. I mean, the storylines are right there. So it's just like it's the Hollywood for ugly people is politics. So yeah, they might make you think that these guys hate this guy, this guy hate this guy, this guy hate this guy, but they're all on the same team, as Carlin said, and you ain't in it. It's one Big Ten, and you ain't in it. And this whole global agenda thing, the earthism religion, which I wish I forgot his name. It's over there. It's on the other side of the wall. And I can picture the book. I can draw the book. I can picture him right now. I'll pull up his website in a minute. But he talks about it. And technocracy, what's his face? John, what's his name? The guy who runs Technocracy.
Patrick Wood.
Patrick Wood. Yeah. He talks about how that's the gospel is Laudato Si. And he writes that in one, I think it's the third book. And you see that happen. Everything that you've seen that's been going on for the last couple of years, that's what's been going on. The environmentalists, the push for earthism, the push for nature, the push for this, that we are we got to clean the planet, the sins, the confessional ideas, the new confessional sins. You have to confess your priest, you didn't recycle. I mean, there's studies out there how that takes more energy and they don't use it anyways. Like 10% gets recycled anyways.
So it all gets shipped off to Thailand.
Yeah, it's a religion because what's his face? John Stossel did a video about that, talking how people they know exactly what day it is, their liturgical day. They know what to put in. They don't care if it even works. It's a superstition in a sense to them because they just put it in. This is I believe in this. I'm going to do it anyways. You can't change my mind. And all this is right here is it's just a bunch of gunk for one fake world religion that we already got a world religion, Catholic, but they don't want to. They're not going to do that because they can't mesh what they're trying to do with the one true faith. So they got to build something like this, and it's been in the works for years.
Yeah. All right, John. Now that you got a little bit of a background, buddy.
Okay.
You're in.
Well, I'm sad to see that it's actually gotten up and running. That I did know about it from a while back, but that's the plans for it. The only thing I'll say is that this, if you've read much apocalyptic fiction, and I'm talking about by good Catholics and by Soloviev, the famous Russian philo-Catholic. I mean, he loved Catholics. A lot of people think he was basically a Catholic or became one at some point later in life. It's kind of up in the air, but a very, very interesting figure in any case, Russian philosopher Soloviev. He wrote some apocalyptic fiction, kind of like Monsignor Benson did, Robert Hugh Benson. There have been a few others. There's even, you got the Father Elijah stuff with, what's his name? Michael O'Brien. The interesting thing, and I ate it up as a high schooler, the Left Behind stuff. I'm embarrassed to say it now, but I read through the whole thing. And hey, to get a high schooler who's thinks sports is his religion to read a ton of books, I mean, probably 5,000 or more pages worth of books, it was something. So one thing that all of that has in common, I'd say, even the Protestant apocalyptic literature and almost all the Catholic stuff, is that there was going to be an attempt in the final days that was going to be somewhat successful to gather all the religions together. I mean, there's got to be some sort of cutoff, though, because for all intents and purposes, what are you going to do with Hinduism in its most normal forms? I know there's some kind of splinters that are more monotheistic, but there has to be some kind of cutoff point. Abrahamic here, I mean, that would be the start, because hey, if you don't see any sort of contradictions between Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, then you're probably not going to be seeing many between that mix and Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever, Shintoism. But roundabout way of saying, I think we could take this as a good sign as well, because those who would sign on to something like this are clearly no longer Catholic. All right. And the pushback, I hope, I pray, and I think from those of goodwill on the Christian side, on the Jewish side, on the, let's say in Abrahamic so-called religions, it could bring about the massive conversions to Catholicism that have also been in authentic prophecies. All right, there are going to be massive conversions on the parts of Jews, on the parts even of Muslims. I mean, that comes up in a few authentic Marian apparitions. Who knows if it's going to be worldwide, exactly how many, but there are going to be serious conversions. I mean, very, very numerous conversions. So for all of that to happen, it seems to me on the psychological side, this is good. This provides the sort of fertile ground for the Catholic Church to say, even if it's in a very polite way, sorry, but we are the only one true religion. I believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. Goes all the way back to the God-man, apostolic. So I don't know. It's horrible in one sense, and yet in God's providence, could be a great thing.
Absolutely. Well said, both of you. So the last thing we'll talk about and I guess we'll just kind of roll this into the cry room thing, is the latest news coming out in regards to the traditional Latin Mass. This came out over the week, talking about how the rumors essentially were true, and now the Mass will be buried even further underground because of, and I'll let Steve and John explain it because, you know, I'm an idiot and I'm just the host here. So I don't know who wants to go first. John, I'll throw it to you. Your reaction to the confirmation, if you will, on the treatment of the Latin Mass.
Can I punt to Steve real quick, because I've got something
Absolutely.
I wanted to stick in the box here that I think is worthwhile.
Yep, Steve.
I haven't kept up much with it because I'm not everyone else and their brothers talking about it, to be honest. I know Father's coming out with a book explaining it a little bit more in a couple weeks about it, if this can even be done. I was bringing this up. I was bringing secular into the secular into the religious one. You see people like, not saying Rick is one of these. I know Rick isn't. The incorporation lovers. The Second Amendment is from here, the Ice World of Hoth, and back again and all around. So the incorporation doctrine of the 14th Amendment, the Miracle Amendment, instead the original intent of the Congress shall not pass, what DC, the feds cannot do, meaning the states can do anything. And now you got the problem with like the NRA guys is you see the feds trying to do the opposite of what that is, because our boys were screwing it up in the idea of it, and therefore making it seem like, all right, well, the feds can just do whatever they want and carpet blank one thing down. The heck with the Constitution and the original intent. In the quo primum, thinking how many people in thinking quo primum meant that the Pope just solidified and never can change anything. When they actually change things afterwards, I think he even changed one after a couple months or a year. I can't remember. I got to bring that article back up. And then Pius X changed the breviary, and they thought that was a monumental event as well. But those that are saying that quo primum is basically solidified, handcuffed future priests or future popes from changing anything, in the same mindset as the incorporation ideas. And now you got everyone's worried, well, the Pope's going to come down and put handcuffs on and change it and destroy it forever. And go, well, let's say he does. Okay. If original intent of quo primum was not what these guys are saying out in the Catholic blogosphere right now, and it was just solidifying and ending a couple things that were at that time, like what there's 20 different rights or whatever was within 500 years, or can't remember exactly the years, but he then handcuffed future generations. If that was the original intent, and people are looking at Francis as doing this with the same mindset as everyone thinking that quo primum is handcuffing people in the future, then you're host. You got this idea brewing, and that's why you guys are losing your mind. But say he gets this through, he dies next month or the month after. Are you telling me, we might get a bad pope, we might get a good pope? Who knows? Whatever we deserve. And what if that gets changed? What if nothing what happens down the road? What if he signs it and a week later dies, somebody else comes in and nixes it? That can happen. So it's just one of those things. I'm not one to go lose my mind off it, get mad. And I've read so many guys, like think of the Desert Fathers about obedience. And I was telling Jonathan about this. How come no one brings up about Christ? Because they bring up unjust laws and thinking of who's the unjust? Who's the one that defines what is unjust? The unjust for here might not be unjust for here. I get that, and it's yes, I would say this would be unjust, but let's play this game. And well, what about Christ going on the cross? Was that unjust? Did you see Christ going, no, I ain't doing that. That's unjust. You don't see him doing that. The verse in Scripture is he was obedient even unto death, even death on the cross. Humble in obedience. And there's books. I mean, even Garanger yesterday talked about that in the chair of St. Peter at Antioch about obedience to the Pope. Even in you hear about saints that even in bad things like Louis de Montfort, he traveled the diocese on foot, barefooted, on foot, same thing, across many dioceses, tired, bleeding feet, worn out, hungry, sits in a sits in a parish. The bishop finds out that he's there because the diocese in Italy were like, they're like your county, that size. It wasn't a gigantic landmass. The news traveled faster across diocese. Knew he was there, told him he wanted him out of his diocese. Did Louis get up and say, forget you. I do what I want? No. He got up, left, and went to the next diocese. Cold, bloody feet, tired and all. He just got up and did it. At St. Louis de Montfort. Father did a sermon on the same St. Louis that wanted to put a Calvary thing together. And all the pieces were in place. We got the green light, good to go. Last minute, no, not happening. Did he go, you know what? Forget you. I'm going to do it myself. I do what I want. Carbon, I do what I want. No, he waited. He did it. He listened to him, and it came out more glorious than before. And so all right, if this comes down, yes, it's going to sting. Yes, it's going to hurt. All right, you got options of, do you just, Job, holy Job, the Lord give it, the Lord take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Is stuff like that, are we jettisoning that because that's what we want? Or is that what God, when do we turn it into God's will? You read God's will all the time. You hear about it, uniformity to God's will. It goes back to the pray, hope, don't worry. We say the right things, but we never do it. What if this is one of those things we got to just do it? I know it sucks. Embrace the suck in a sense. I mean, it's not popular. No, it's not popular to say. I'm probably going to get heat about that. I don't care. But it's not up for a vote for especially laymen. Let the priests, if the priests want to, go after and say something to cardinals and bishops, that's them. What layman gets to go up and say, you know what, we're not doing it. We're going to do this. Just because you say a TLM, if I go start saying a TLM, that doesn't mean it's right. I mean, Leviticus 1-10 still is in the script. That's the same God that struck down unknown smoke, struck those kids down because they were not authorized to give worship. Right worship. It was right worship, wrongly done. Wrong people were doing right worship. So that's the same God then, as one priest said, then it is now. I mean, I'm not one to go out and poke at him. So you know what? I like doing it what I want. I want what it's the American way. Don't tread on me. Don't get into the Americanism idea of that. Stick with Holy Mother, the Church. It's gonna suck. Embrace it. Maybe that's some penance we got to do. But Jonathan, go ahead. I'm talking too much.
Let me just throw this out real quick before we let John jump in there. And we as American Catholics are very entitled, and the fact that let me just say, we demand this type of mass. We deserve this type of mass. That very much what Steve was saying, that we want what we want instead. And I'll just say this, I might ruffle a couple people's feathers, but do American Catholics, with the fact that abortion is still rampant, the fact that we let the LGBT MAP mafia kind of run roughshod over us, the fact that we've allowed no fault divorce to kind of run parishes, do we deserve to have something like the Latin Mass because we've done such a bang up job? So I don't know. That's my grenade that I'm tossing into the group. But John, please go ahead.
All right, what you gentlemen just said, I echo. Okay. But let me add this. What both of you just said too, like it cuts me to the quick, right? Because I see myself being guilty of the sort of, I think, fair critiques you just made of American traditional Catholics who want it our way. And I hate to parody a fast food commercial, but we want it our way, right now. Yeah. But that's me too. I see myself in that. But I think I found even another interpretive tool, if you will, that for those of us who are we're too weak, like to hear what you guys just said and to know it's true, and yet to swallow it and actually live accordingly, it takes a stretch. Okay. It takes a lot. So here's what I would add to what you said, not contradict in any way, but just add and think of this along with it. God, this is throughout the sacred scriptures. Okay. God always gets the last laugh. Okay. God will not be mocked. Mm-hmm. We talk about believing in the inerrancy of sacred scripture. Do we believe that? If we really believe that the Vetus Ordo, the traditional Latin Mass that we think has been around since the time of at least St. Gregory the Great, do we really think that God's just going to let it go poof like that out of thin air completely? I mean, if we trust in God's providence enough, what I would suggest is God will find a way eventually to restore us from this exile that we have been, I think, a liturgical exile. Even devout Catholics who assist exclusively at the Novus Ordo, those who still remain, I think, would agree with this, that we have lived in really horrible times for the liturgy since 1969. They may not blame it on the change of the missiles. And some of us may be a little bit more strong in our critique of that change in the missiles as kind of the root cause of all this, or we may even go back to the change in the Holy Week in 1955. So be it. It has been a disaster for all Catholics worldwide, the state of the liturgy since at least 1970, if not before. And so God's not going to be mocked. It's been over 50 years. Is God going to come and restore it? If we have faith, then he will. Now, that's just kind of related to sacred scripture. The other part is related to divine providence. Okay. So, my area of studies was patristics. Okay. That's what I studied intently, was the Greek and the Latin fathers, especially from the very beginning. What did they say? What did the early church believe? Really the first two authentic writings we have from a particular church father are in Greek, from St. Clement of Rome and St. Ignatius of Antioch. The ones we can clearly say, all right, these guys wrote these. All right, some scholars may have some kooky ideas, but these guys wrote some stuff that we still have. At least first letter by St. Clement and at least 7 letters by St. Ignatius of Antioch. And they both say the same thing. To be Catholic is to be submissive to your local bishop, okay? In union with, obviously, the Roman pontiff, because the Roman pontiff's deciding things in Corinth there with Clement, and it's just essentially what St. Ignatius says in another way when he says that the church in Rome there presides in the charity. So you got to be in union with the Pope, but especially also you have to be obedient to, submissive to the local bishop. That is who we are as Catholics. All right. And at various times in church history, that's caused a whole lot more trouble and difficulty for faithful Catholics than at other times. Think about being in penal England in the 16th century. Okay. But it's who we are as Catholics. We have to find a way to be in communion with those local bishops who are in communion with the Pope in Rome, the Bishop of Rome. That's it. Now, I stuck on the YouTube page, and I'll stick it in the private chat too, so maybe we can somehow pin it to this video. There's a Spanish priest out there, Tratty priest, one who says the old mass. I mean, he's devoted to the old mass. Okay. And thank you so much. And he has written, I think, a very reasonable way of interpreting what happened with this rescript, this rescriptum, to see it as a humiliation of Roche, all right, or Roach, whatever you want to call him, all right, and to actually provide a little bit of a way out for those few good bishops, including some that we didn't think of before, who wanted to find ways around this crazy order. So there is a way to interpret all of this in God's providence that also salvages the old mass, that ends up salvaging the old mass, okay? So that God gets the last laugh there, you could say, if you really believe the old mass is truly integral to keeping, Catholics sane and healthy liturgically. But also seeing this particular rescript as having been a sign of good things to come. Not only that it wasn't nearly as restrictive as people were predicting it was going to be, but it would make no sense or make very, very little sense. I should qualify. Very, very little sense for this to come out now. And then there's going to be some big letter again in late March, early April, maybe May, that's going to completely redo this. Because look, that would humiliate Francis. And if there's anything that any of us can agree on, it's that Pope Francis doesn't seem to like to be humiliated, right? Doesn't like to kind of publicly swallow that pill of humiliation. If that's the case, then hey, looks like we just got out with pretty much what Traditionis Custodes laid out, but with a few outs, a few ways of allowing good bishops to keep the old mass going, even if it's not the optimal location or with optimal advertising, to keep it going in their diocese. So there are positive interpretations out there, and we ought to at least give them equal time. But I haven't seen this floating around the webs. Have you guys?
No,
it's the end times coming around.
Nope. I've just seen gloom and doom. That's all I've seen. People writing about being very, once again, I'm an idiot. I get it. But I see a lot of people being very prideful, saying you cannot strip me of this. I deserve it, this, that, and the other thing. And instead of,
I've seen guys talk about not going to mass, mortal sin.
yeah, I
don't care how puffed up chest you want to think you are and big and bad. You want to be on Twitter. You're not big and bad on Twitter. They're literally saying, I'm not going to go to mass.
Yeah, that's not going to be.
Are we that stupid? Look, and why the rest of people out there on Twitter? Why are you calling these guys out? I've seen a guy said he was going to get ordained by a heretical schismatic bishop from the OCC, old Catholics that reject Vatican I. Hey, where's the call out on that?
Yeah.
Trads, be consistent. You're going to call out the bad NO guys, call out the bad wannabe trad ones too. Be consistent on both fronts. Call out the bad apples because we want, it's just like a team. If you want to be better, you got to get everyone brought up, right? Now, if we're too scared to say anything to what's right, then don't go out there and tell people how bad these guys are, this guy is, when you don't have the guts to say, hey guy, hey bud, that's wrong. And this is why that's wrong. I know people have done that, and I can't believe the spine has been rejected by them, where they have their spines taken out. Where's sensus catholicos on there? If you're going to call out these other guys, we better call out our own when we screw up, including me. Call me out if I do it. I don't care. But this holy righteous stuff you see on Twitter, that's got to go.
I can't, and I'll say it, I can't stand it when people say don't go to mass, because I'm like, dude, you're not going to enjoy that when it comes to judgment. You know, I don't want to get into it because I don't think I can actually articulate it well. But
can I say one thing too?
Please save me because I'm stumbling around here. Get in there, John.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I read the lives of the saints, I mean, I'm always just so ashamed, and I blush, and I'm thinking, I mean, maybe a few times in my life I've had, those true spiritual tears that the saints talk about. They get, I would like to have those more often. And I think I'm just, kind of guessing based on previous experience here. I think that I could weep for what on the human side of the church, what Christ has allowed to happen on the human side, the suffering, the true, agony in the garden of having a bunch of priests who do offer a very beautiful, worthy liturgy to God in union with the Pope, to have them stripped of that opportunity. And then I would still have to go to mass somewhere else. We moved for the old mass. We've done that 4 times now, my family and I can't imagine the tears that I think I would shed if I had moved for this mass and then were to be deprived of it. But hey, to get me to shed tears for one of the beautiful things in the Catholic Church that, at least for a time, might be taken away from me. I don't know. Maybe that's what I need, because I'm jealous of all these saints' tears out there, and I haven't shed them enough. It's because of my own sinfulness, but this might provide me a quick route to it.
Well, it definitely is an opportunity to practice. I know Steve mentioned Job, and to follow the lives of those who have had true suffering. If our true suffering is that we got to sit through bad Novus Ordo masses for a couple years while this whole thing gets sorted out, I actually think that's not too terrible. I know there are some people that are looking at me right now who will probably call me a wimp and all these other, you got to go do the things and all that. You know what, man?
On that point, someone asked me about taking their, we went to a Novus Ordo down the street because that was all we had for Ash Wednesday. I know it's not a holy day of obligation, but we still went for devotion wise. And I went last, in there for both Ashes and Communion. And because I told him, he asked me, what do you do at a parish like that? I don't want to step on our Lord. Hey, I didn't say I want to. And when I was at St. Paul's beforehand, what I would do is I would wait to be the last. And I went down the middle and came back down the middle. And I had people ask me, why do you do that? And I explained to them why. And then the next time I had there was 40 men kneeling without no altar. They didn't do it before. 40 guys started kneeling. And then those guys got more guys than them. Those guys got more guys than them. And then they started going, well, maybe we could walk down the middle too until they get rid of communion hand and influence the priest. So evangelize.
Yeah.
Don't you don't have to talk on Twitter and get, talk to the choir. I just got an article done on sense of fidelity in the Diocese of Charleston, the least traditional diocese I think of on the planet. I'm blocked on Facebook by them because I remember they put a nun up 12 years ago, and I mentioned it was a laundry day. Is that a nun? She has a collar shirt on or something like that. This is the level we have down there. During the Rona, they shut down everything.
Yeah.
Now the new bishop came in. He's probably way better than the old one, Guglielmone. But yeah, they're not very friendly. You'll talk to priests down there. They claim that they say they're underground and hiding trad priests in the diocese. So they did an article, and I reached out to them going, hey, what do you think about doing an article on Sense Fidelity? Because the guy that runs it is from South Carolina, went to St. Paul Catholic School in Spartanburg, South Carolina, grew up in Cowpens. They thought it was the coolest thing in the world. My whole mindset in that was trying to infiltrate the diocese to get people who never heard of the channel to come to it. And when they come to it, they are introduced to the gold that's on there. And the gold from the priest will bring them to tradition. And then what that does, the idea starts ticking, and then that influences and evangelizes themselves and friends. And then they become more traditional than everyone else. And we grow the movement this way. If we hide in the corner and just say, no, we don't like this guy, we don't like this guy, we don't like that guy, no one's going to come in. Go out there and even if they take it away, they can't take away salvation. They can't take away you explaining the religion, promoting the old ways, sharing the old ways, sharing the beauty and the joy of the old ways. They can't stop that. You can't kill an idea unless you kill them all. And that's not going to happen. And when, just like the story of Lou de Montfort, if that does come through, how glorious will it be later? Because again, they're all old. They're going to die. Who's coming up? They know it. That's why they're coming with the pedal to the metal. The young guys are coming through. Wait till we get our own bishop and own pope. All right, how about this? Can't wait. Think about that when we get our own bishop and pope. Then you'll have to figure out what to complain about.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I think you brought up something. They can't take away your reverence for our Lord. No matter where you are, you can always show reverence because apparently you may not believe it. I do. It doesn't matter if it's a Novus Ordo Mass or it's a Latin Mass or a Byzantine. He's there. He's still there. He is at the front. He's in the tabernacle. So your reverence can be an example for others. Like
convert every parish, just go out and convert everybody.
Yeah. Maybe those weak-kneed Catholics in the Novus Ordo that you think maybe they're looking for somebody to lead them. Yeah. Maybe they're looking for somebody to set the example. I'm lucky at the Mass I go to. Sometimes there's a Novus Ordo I go to right up the street. The priest is good enough. He has a kneeler. He has a kneeler there for people on the side. So every time I have to go there, I go to the side and I receive it on the tongue. And I'm more than happy to. And I don't shake hands. And I bow every time I hear our Lord's name at that Mass. I try to be that example every time if I have to go there. And believe me, if you know me, you know I'm not a saint. But at least I can understand that when I'm in that building, there's reverence there. I actually think I'm going to take that from you, Steve. I'm going to start going down the middle as well. I think that's a great idea. I'll
never forget. My bud Mario asked me about that one day, and I told him, he goes, "I'm never going to ask you another thing ever." It's scary because he never thought about that. Most people that go that they don't think about that.
No.
And it's just when you tell them, it's like you can see the light bulb going off.
Most of the people that people on Twitter go after and bust chops on and make fun of and let's be honest, condescend to are just poorly catechized. Which is, if I'd said it correctly, forgive me if I butchered the word.
Yeah, most Mama, Mr. and Mrs. Clefufficus at your regular Novus Ordo parish isn't on Twitter looking at these arguments. Get off there and go figure out how to infiltrate. I call that real infiltration with getting in the diocese.
Real infiltration.
Figure out how to infiltrate the other parishes with the good, true, and beautiful and drive them over. Be friendly, charity. St. Paul talked about that for weeks. He didn't say it just because it was something he wanted to, you know what? I got to talk about charity for a low. St. John talked about love so much that his people were saying, holiness, are you okay? All you talk about is love. There's a reason for that. There's a story by the Desert Fathers about wanting to have an argument. And he goes, how do you do it? They didn't know how to argue. The guy goes, we'll put a brick down in the middle. You tell me about that. That's my brick. Or that's your brick. And I'll tell you that's mine. So they tried it. Put a brick down. He goes, that's my brick. And the other guy goes, no, that's mine. And the guy responds, okay, take it. They didn't know how to argue.
Okay, you win.
We got to have that kind of love. That we don't need to come out like no teeth bashing.
No. Yeah, I agree. It's just, and so, John, do you want to jump in? No? Okay.
You guys nailed it, and I'm just, I add my applause and my cheering, you know?
Well, that's that's going to be the thing. You're going to see people just freaking out. And I know people that I personally respect that will not go and all this other kind of stuff. And I pray for them, and it's not my place. And you just have to, and that's and before we get to the cry room, I'll just end it on that. I think people are taking I think they're taking too much of an entitled, and yes, I love the Latin Mass. I believe the Latin Mass is the most beautiful thing on this side of heaven. A good, when you go to a good high mass and the incense is flowing and the chants are running, yeah, we all had tears brought to our eyes. But then again, here in America, do we deserve it? Right? Are we entitled to it when we're asking our Lord, I need this mass? Think about this, and we'll get to the cry room after this. There is a certain set of Catholics that say there is no other way for me to praise you, Lord, except this way. Well, do you not praise him every day? Do you not take your actions every day and offer them up as praise? Or do you have to do it in a suit and go and do it in this setting? Because something I work on, folks, praise and loving God is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. It is. And I am the last person that should be telling you that, because I am the worst one at it. But even I know that to love God is more than just that hour and a half on Sunday. So rip me apart all you want. I'm more than happy to have you guys do that. Let's get to the cry room before I just keep digging myself a hole. John, do you have anybody for the cry room and a saint of the week?
Yeah, for the cry room, I'd go after the guy who runs the Canon 212 news site, because
Frank.
Yeah, the Frank guy. Yeah, I mean, most news is going to be negative already, but it really takes a certain sort of, I think, evil genius or whiny genius to make everything seem like it's the end of the world. Because then eventually it's like, well, what's going to actually be? I mean, it's like the boy crying wolf, you know? I mean, can somebody do kind of I don't know, I'll have to think of the right canon, maybe at the final canon, where it's supreme laws of salvation of souls, and just think of a way to word even the clickbait for news articles so that everything seems like, oh, it's the second coming of Christ. This is great. I mean, you kind of need that with the news already because it's already so negative. So yeah, he's in my cry room because he whines about everything. Everything for him is another show, another demonstration that, Francis is an anti-pope and that every single bishop in the entire world's wrong and only the beneficantists are right. It's just, oh my word. So I checked before the show, the site, because I wanted to be, in case you guys brought up any sort of ecclesiastical news, I wanted to be up on the latest. That's the last time I do that. I'm just going to have to come in the show ignorant next week rather than click on Canon 212 again.
Do you have any saint of the week, or do you want to mark on the first week of Lent any kind of meditation or anything like that you want to talk about? You don't have to do a saint of the week if you have something you want to mark on this first week of Lent. What do you have for our listeners and watchers as we close out this show, John?
Well, I'd commend to their attention and their prayers even this brave priest who wrote the article or the little blog post I was referring to that should be in the chat there, the YouTube, the Caminante. Put it in Google Translate. If Google Translate should work well enough on Spanish, you should get the point there. I mean, someone who's among the trad crowd, brave enough to say, this may actually not be the worst thing ever. This could actually be something beneficial to the cause, could help us out. This could be a chance for humiliation of Cardinal Roche. I mean, that brave, it takes someone brave and I think intellectually prudent do that, who has the true gift of prudence. So yeah, he's my saint of the week, and I think we should all try to imitate him. Try to find some of the silver linings there that could be part of God's providence for us.
Awesome. Steve, Cry Room, saint of the week. What do you got?
I'm going with Cry Room. I'm going to go with Harry and Meghan for suing South Park. I played the clip. It's hysterical, but I don't want there's a word comes in afterwards, but they sit there. He introduces the book. It's hysterical. And he goes, "There's the name of your book." Wham. Because they walk inside, "Please stop looking at me. Please stop looking at me." And it's just brutal. And then they're suing them, which South Park has made fun of literally everybody for 2 decades. And I think Megan actually comes out saying that she didn't even watch the whole episode, which put them in the Cry Room. I got an honorable mention actually for Saint of the Week, because where did I put it? Oh man. Darn it. I know I have it. There it is.
Expect it'll happen. Last question.
Well, I think it's something that we should work towards because, it's kind of the vision that our founding fathers had for America. And I think it's a great one. It worked in the beginning. We just got it completely out of control. So I hope we can get there.
All right. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
National divorce.
Yep,
divorce.
I mean,
slash it.
They're talking about it on the federal level now. I mean, who thought that was coming? So that's obviously a way to figure out how to get out of this situation. But really, my saint of the week is going to go with Professor David Fagerberg. I mispronounced it. He's been great. I found him. He's a retired professor from Notre Dame, and he wrote the book called Liturgical Asceticism, and I couldn't put it down. It's dog-eared, everything. It's great. And he actually asked him about doing a show, and he's not a big interview guy. And he said, "Well, I'll do some lessons because I'm retired, but I got all this info here. What if I put some lessons together?" And so far, he's done 6 you see, and they are fantastic stuff. I listened to the what did the monks do in the desert one while I was working out. That's where you see half of it almost done, and it was just solid. I go, dude, you got to do one on virtue and vice, just because the old photos that he used from the old books that he got is just, you're gonna love it, and stuff like that. I mean, it's not getting the views, obviously. One's got 500 views that came out yesterday. 889, and I told people, I don't care. I'm not looking for 50,000. If it's great. Most people are going to get the 50,000 views are going to be the ones that bring out the sexy stuff and the tickle your ear stuff. This stuff, like here and the other sermons, people are not seeing. I don't know why, but 800 people got a great lesson out of that. So thanks be to God.
All right, so I'm going to be lazy. Saint of the week, I'm going to go with Trump. Cry Room is Buttigieg. Very easy. Just a layup for me. Okay, come on. Let's just be right.
Oh, how about what's his face winning the slam dunk contest?
Oh, the white dude, the whitest dude around.
He was in the minor leagues Tuesday, gets signed by the 76ers that week, and the weekend he's in the slam dunk contest and wins it.
A white dude won the slam contest during Black History Month. That's all I gotta say. Now that, to be fair, they had to do it because it was in Salt Lake and they're the whitest population in the NBA. But still, that's neither here nor there. Not a conspiracy or anything. The guy looks like your neighbor. The guy looks like the neighbor who should be raking your leaves.
Those guys knew him. Shaq knew who he was. He goes, "They don't know who you are. Go out and make a name for yourself." He knew he was going to win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he knew he was going to win for certain reasons.
I'm surprised you didn't see racist tweets afterwards. How'd they do that?
Right. Yeah. Or they'll find out he took performance enhancing. He's going to have to give it up in like a week. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please like, subscribe, share the news from the pew. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Hope you guys have a good suffering Lent that you can offer up and really offer up to God. And we'll talk to you soon. Viva Cristo Rey.
Viva!